Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us. We're excited to have this discussion about AI-powered best practice sharing. I'm delighted to have some special guests with us today. It'll be a 30-minute session, so we will have time for questions at the end. But how about to start, we do some introductions. So I'm Trisha Paris. I'm from WeGrow. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer, and I will pass it to Guillaume. You have one.
Hi everyone, very pleased to be with you all. I'm Guillaume Lambert. I look after Zone Europe e-commerce acceleration with categories, market and function. Pleased to be with you all.
Hi everyone, I'm Charlotte, so head of e-commerce also, but at a local level, so in France, for all the categories we have in Nestlé.
Thank you. And Arnaud Sliva-Bizet, founder and CEO of WeGrow, after 15 years in a corporate.
So Arnaud, since you have the mic over there, how about we start with you? Can you tell us a little bit more about why you started WeGrow?
Sure. So I had a chance to work with companies that were friend and competitors of Nestlé, like Danone at the time. And I discovered a Danone that is quite a problem that is quite famous in big companies. The ex-CEO of HP called it, if only HP knew what HP knows, we would be 3 times productive. And funny enough, in Nestlé, you've got exactly the same saying, if only Nestlé knew what Nestlé knows. And for me, as a global marketing and sales leader, it was, how do I make sure that we do not permanently reinvent the wheel? So in the French market, if I've got a team that got success in a Carrefour, for example, how do I make sure that it gets reapplied with a team that is working with Intermarché, or with a team that's working with Tesco in the UK, or with Walmart in the US? So in large companies that are siloed, that with the matricial organization are getting worse and worse in terms of silos, how do we make sure that we use the power of many to share on scale what works so that we don't waste time reinventing the wheel? So that's why I created WeGrow 4 years ago.
Can you tell us a little bit more about how it works?
Yes, so we have a virtuous cycle that is quite simple. First, we check who are the good students. So we check at the French level who are the best-selling teams, or at the global level who are the overperforming team, and we are going to extract their best practices. A best practice is always the same. It's a context, it's a solution that was put into place, and it's KPIs with results. So we extract it from the good team, and then we push it gently to the teams that are struggling, but not in a top-down manner, more a peer-to-peer manner, to say, hey, you're the head of e-commerce of Spain, you're struggling. Here is 5 things that worked in Argentina, Mexico, Malaysia. Why don't you reuse it to reach your targets? And at the global level or the national level, then the central team can see the amount of best practices that have been shared and the impact in terms of productivity. We use 2 pillars, a great tool and a great animation system, because you can have the best tool in the world. If people are not engaged, it's useless. And you can have a great engagement system, but if you put people on Yammer or SharePoint, they will quit after 3 months because they cannot find anything. So on the tech part, we are using AI in an operational way, so not the cliché AI, but we have an AI, for example, hey, I just did a deck for my boss. I don't want to spend 45 minutes redocumenting it in a template, which is most of the time asked on the Friday night for the Monday morning. So we use AI to drag and drop minutes of meetings, PowerPoint presentation, so that the best practice is automatically created. And then the creators still have to do the 20% to the last mile to finish it. We have a chatbot that we just launched a couple of months ago where I can ask a question. Hey, how can I drive profitability on a Purina in e-commerce in France? And then it will scroll through all the best practices that have been gathered to give recommendations that can be used in the following minute with an agency. And then we have an AI tracking of reuse of best practices with an extrapolation of time and money that is being saved. So that's the technology. And then on the gamification, we have an entire team. Just one thing I've learned is that in global companies, we may be very good e-commerce directors, sales managers, marketers. What we are not is community managers. It asks a lot of energy, it asks a lot of resilience. This is why most of the time, when a project like that is launched in a company, after 3 months, no one is there anymore, because the person that managed it is exhausted. So this is why we do it. We have 12 client success managers in our teams in WeGrow that are animating the platform with gamification, award, reward to make this cultural change. So this is a WeGo solution, the tech based on AI on the animation program.
I think this is a good time to ask what kind of clients we work with. We have some special guests with us today, but how else would you describe?
Yes, so we work with retail teams, marketing teams, and sales teams of all those organizations that you can see on the screen. So a lot of fast-moving consumer goods, but we also work with the teams of HP, for example, with their management of all their partners around the world to sell their hardware. We always work with decentralized teams. A simple common point between all those organizations, those are not 100% top-down organization. If you are a super top-down organization, WeGo is not for you. If your entire team is working like an army and they just execute what comes from the headquarters, WeGo is not for you. That said, I would say if you work like that, you may struggle to retain your talents. So more modern organizations tend to give freedom to operate, empowerment to the local teams, and this is where we come into place for all those clients. And in terms of result, and that will be a way to transition to Nestlé, we help saving time at the central level, so people don't have to chase best practices. So we make that happen for our clients without resources. And at the local level, and it will be interesting to have the feedback from you as users, we hope that they save time because they can find way quicker best practices that can help them rather than scrolling through SharePoint for 5 hours or trying to call someone that knows something potentially. On cherry on the cake, we also monitor the reuse of productive actions. So we have what we call the reuse system, where we can monitor revenue growth management actions that are being scaled, PPA, price pack architecture actions that are being shared. And we do that for half of our clients to also go into the saving mode.
So I think this is a great time to transition to the Nestlé story. We're lucky enough to have our clients here with us. Charlotte, perhaps I start with you. When thinking about the central challenge of if Nestlé knew what Nestlé knows, maybe you can ground us in what was the pain point before that you were struggling with, and how did using and sharing best practices transform after using WeGrow?
Yeah, thanks. So I think since I started in Nestlé 13 years ago, I hear about that sentence, and it's precisely, I think, one of our key challenge to just collect all best practices we have internally. And just because two main reasons: we are a matricial organization, as you said, and as well we are fragmented. Just to give you our ambition for e-commerce, because since we started to launch WeGrow, we have one objective, which is basically to accelerate cross-fertilization of e-commerce best practices. Okay? And we would like to do it in a modern way, let's say like that, very simply, very easily, thanks to WeGrow, just because few years ago it was very old-fashioned way. We just shared best practices for e-commerce through PowerPoint, SharePoint. This is not anymore, as we all know, the world like that, as we were. So it was precisely one of our key goals to really modernize the way we share best practices, and precisely on one of our most dynamic channel, which is e-commerce. So at global level, which is interesting in Nestlé, we decided to use e-commerce channel as the pioneer for best practice sharing in a new way with WeGrow. And we do believe that right now that solution is already a game changer. Why? Because it breaks basically silos in our matricial organization. Let me give you some context about Nestlé Group. 3 zones, 120 markets. We have precisely 9 categories. So it's when we talk about matricial organization, it's really a matricial organization. When we talk about fragmentation, this is really important to understand that fragmentation is everywhere. For example, on e-commerce, I look after personally for, as I said to you, 9 categories in 31 markets. But as you imagine, e-commerce maturity in all those 31 markets is very different. We have top 6 in net sales market, very dynamic, in which we have a strong maturity. In some others, we have less maturity on e-commerce. However, and this is maybe something also we as a clear goal we have internally, we need to find very tangible solution as we grow to achieve our global target, which is very ambitious. So right now our global target for e-commerce is to double our e-commerce sales from now to 2030. As you imagine, the mountain is very high. And to do so, you have a lot of levers, enablers, but basically it's all about people and capability building. We do believe that on capability building, besides the learning we could have, definitely regrow to cross-fertilize best practices is really important. So there is that first point to give visibility of hidden cases on e-commerce, formerly exchanges on PowerPoint or SharePoint. The second point is about if we look at after our ambition, which is very high, to double our sales by 2030, we definitely need as well to take care of our e-commerce community. To do so, we need to develop a sort of recognition of that e-commerce community, just because thanks to the best cases, good best practices, we can really develop internal recognition. Just because it gives visibility of best practices, but right now the way we work is basically when we do believe a case is very interesting, our role as above market team is to push overall in our region to say, hey, look, this is a tangible case, please roll out in your categories or market. But it's also a way to recognize all the work done and precisely in the smallest country, for example, in Zone Europe. So it's a way to really develop that cross-fertilization. Also, it's a way to give visibility to senior leaders. Why? Just because we are accelerating e-commerce in Nestlé, it's definitely the ongoing trend. But it's true that our DNA as Nestlé, more than 150 years, is offline world. So definitely there is a need of acculturation internally, just because we are with Charlotte e-commerce folks, I would like to say, but traditionally in our organization, this is more an offline world. So definitely across the organization, we need to develop that acculturation on e-commerce, not only for employees, but also for our leaders, because in some cases, in some business, still leaders still to be convinced about the full potential of some sub-channel for e-commerce.
Thank you. That was really thorough. One of my follow-up questions for you is maybe we can go deeper on a best practice that stands out that you have seen reused either in another market or within another team.
Yes, so on my side, I could share one. I have many, as you imagine, but there is one which is pretty interesting just because, for example, we have internally what we call an e-commerce academy. So it's an e-learning tool, okay, basically to have certification on e-commerce, mainly dedicated for e-commerce colleagues. But it's e-learning. And recently, we had that best practices in the UK to use the content of that e-commerce academy and run physical session. And definitely, it's a real success. So basically, thanks to the platform, we raised that best practices. And right now, the plan for 2025 is to roll out e-commerce academy in physical forum. So what it is interesting in that case is basically when I talk formally about acculturation and also capability building, this is precisely that. And maybe it's interesting also because Regrow could be not only for the business, but precisely for capability building itself, such as the e-learning. I have another example because UK is our biggest market for e-commerce in Europe. And as I said to you, we have a fragmented landscape. If I take, for example, Ukraine, we have a strong partnership with a digital shelf performance tracking provider, which is Data Impact, our global provider. And basically, we have a rollout plan. The thing is, it's really interesting to see that with Data Impact, we have very good best practices for digital shelf performance tracking, including in our smallest markets, such as Ukraine. And our Ukrainian colleague did a very great job to just optimize their product content pages in a very simple and easy way, and it has been shared by Regrow. And it's a source of inspiration for everyone in our zones.
Thank you. Oh, go ahead. Charlotte, go ahead.
Yes. From a market perspective, so a more local and day-to-day, I can give an example of more sales example. So the e-commerce packaging or the e-commerce products are quite difficult to address for a market, even if we are the second biggest market in e-commerce, because we need to involve industry, we need to involve supply, we need to have enough volumes, etc. And when we are a market, even if we are big, it's quite difficult if you are an e-commerce manager, for example, for confectionery, to say, okay, I need some dedicated packagings for Amazon because the volume will be very small. My factory won't be able to raise it with a profitable cost, etc. So it's a real fact and a real example. We discovered that UK had launched already e-com pack on KitKat, and it was already sold. So from a French perspective, we were able to launch the same packaging in a few months or maybe a few weeks, instead of making some tests, making some assessment processes, etc. And it were just only available in the group, and we didn't know it. So that was a very simple way and simple example, but very pragmatic one, and we have some value, incremental value, and real value produced by that.
And you're able to measure that impact.
And we are able to measure that with a very simple. It's incremental. It's sales. We also have visibility. Moreover, so this is an example, a concrete example for France. By our cultural mindset, we don't post a lot of cases because we are French, and yes, we would love to live by our own. However, even if we are in this mindset, the tool is very appreciated to check that we are in the right way, to check that other markets are doing the same as us. So it's also a sort of indirect benefit, but very, very valuable for the categories who are just, checking that we are doing well and checking that we are on the good, for example, the good projects and the good...
it's a way to create visibility and lead by example. Even if you are the proud market of France, other people can certainly learn from you. And this is actually a good segue into a question about the culture at Nestlé. So before using WeGrow, you kind of mentioned you weren't big about sharing and posting. How do you encourage that amongst your teams now that you're expert users?
So in just one word, I think it's all about community. Just because we decided to launch WeGrow with a community update at global level and even Zone Europe level. And it's a way really to just energize that e-commerce community thanks to WeGrow webinar. Just to show to the team that it's very easy, simple, in just one click to post best practices. And basically to really encourage that community to post, it's really important. It's true that in some cases, some markets, or for some teams, it's a change of behavior because from cultural perspective, for example, it's not always easy to post something for French people, for example. Coming from a global perspective, it's really interesting that right now we see a huge dynamic on WeGrow, for example, from Asian countries, because in their potentially cultural and also professional background, it's much more easy and encouraged by also hierarchy. But quite interesting to see that even that Zone Asia is really inspiring us for Zone Europe, for example, because they are really dynamic on WeGrow. And this is why I think that leverage a lot the organization overall. In terms of impact and benefit, I think for a company such as us, really important if we look at the win of time overall we have thanks to Regrow. Why? Just basically, if you look at Regrow, it's a catalyst just to explain that we tried many things and we have learning on that. We all know that definitely when we push for a new initiative, for example, with a new customer, it could be on last mile delivery, it could be on different pure players. We need to test, we need to try. Sometimes it's just to try very specific e-commerce packs for our customers, but it's not easy. We have to find the right balance with operation. Basically, that test and learn period is really important in all projects, as we all know. And it's a very good way, Regrow, finally, to just capture the learnings of those test and learn to basically, after that, reuse the case and accelerate the process. It could be for another category of product, it could be for another market. And I think this is precisely one of the main business benefits.
Thank you for your perspective. I guess I want to make sure I'm saving time for questions in the crowd, but maybe one last question for me. Either of you can answer, but based on your experience, is there any advice you'd give to anyone in the crowd, any other companies who are considering adopting this kind of new tool, which also involves a little bit of a cultural change, perhaps?
Yes, an advice is, my experience is that it's not just a tool. It's a concept and a mindset also. So the tool is the assets. However, we need to engage, and you mentioned that there is a key success manager also. It's very important because to transform and to encourage the uses of the tool, we need to change the mindsets. For now, the process we have in France is sometimes when we have some dedicated reflections on, for example, future plans, business plans for the few next years, etc. We go in the platform. We say, okay, we analyze all the cases and we check what we need to, for example, to use in France, etc. Or if we have a dedicated issue or case, we can check. We can put in the search in the search engine the word what we are looking for, and it provides us some dedicated case. It's not only the fact we would like to use, we would like to also to make it more daily in our ways of working. And what I was saying to Guillaume, maybe my dream could be that with AI, maybe the AI you don't like, because Regrow see that in my emails I put frequently the word media, retail media, or I don't know, Carrefour or Amazon. Maybe the tool could be able to push notification and say, hey, not me to say to Regrow, hey, I'm looking for it, but Regrow saying to me, hey, you are looking oftenly on Amazon cases, etc. I have a case interesting for you. So that, yeah.
A quick nudge before I give it back to you, Guillaume. It's typically what we are aiming for. So we are fully integrated in Microsoft. We are fully integrated in Teams, in SharePoint. We are launching an Outlook integration, and the objective is to be able to scrap your professional agenda, which is not private, and to see, hey, I've got a meeting on Amazon KitKat in 2 weeks, and then we push you the nudge before your meeting. Or I just had a project review of my launch from last year. Hey, can you share what happened? So it's typically where we want to go one step further next year. Yeah.
My dream will happen.
Okay, well, I wanted to make sure that we save time for questions from the crowd because I'm sure people would love to ask our guests from Nestlé questions, but I could pass my mic in case there's anything. Okay. All right. Oh, one question. Here we go.
Hello, thank you for your testimonial on this great story. Adrien from Pernod Ricard. We have definitely similar contexts. We can share more. Question about the impact. First, you mentioned, of course, it is accelerating and people enjoy it. Could you share more about the impact on speed of replicating best practices, which might be the common driver to identify a return on investment? And info on the timing to adopt WeGrow, on the timing then to replicate best practice, how many replications, how do you measure these impacts?
I don't have any metrics on the adoption time. However, it's very simple. I could say my kids could do it. So very simple, and no need of training session. We had some, but to be honest, no need. This is not a metrics.
So adoption is immediate, and then replication of best practices then.
Yeah, so I think basically why we like in Nestlé the let's say the WeGrow front page is that it's very easy. It's quite simple, very easy to read. You find very easily the information. So when you look at WeGrow and you would like to discover best practice, it's very easy to find the key learnings. This is really important. The application is built that you find also fact-based element. Sometimes in terms of sales uplift, understanding why it's a game changer, it's really important. And basically, it's quite simple. We can directly track in the application, I mean the platform, is the best practices has been reused, yes or no, and by who. So it's really easy also to find, for example, in my case, above market role, you could see that, for example, you have a best practice started in UK, reused in Turkey. I have an example in mind. So just in terms of cross-fertilization into market, and basically you could also, thanks to coordination with both teams, see what are the gaps, also the differences, and some final local adjustment of that best practices. So I would say in terms of time win, to be honest with you, we didn't at all quantify yet, but it's quite evident for us.
Yes, I can add just the example of the product, the Kit Kat variety packs we launched on Amazon. I think if we didn't discover that UK was already selling it, it could have taken months. Many months to launch it.
Maybe years.
Yes, maybe years. In Nestlé, maybe years. And it has been launched in, I'm not sure because I need to check with the confectionery category, but in 6 weeks, I can say. Because not only product was available, but also the contents, also, so you can scale all you need. You can have the contact, which is very important in a such big organization. So you speed really quickly. So it's maybe too soon to measure it because a little bit more than 1 year. So maybe too soon. We will ask the global team, but yes, it's.
No, but definitely in terms of months, I think definitely we're in time. If I go back to my example for e-commerce academy, it's not easy, as you imagine, to roll out an e-learning tool, and basically just to have that internal conclusion that physical sessions are really important to drive that e-learning tool. Honestly speaking, now it's clear that for 2025, we need to accelerate with those formats, okay? Not so sure, without WeGrow, we took that decision so quickly. So I think in terms of decision making, this is really important. We discussed previously with Charlotte, but for example, when you are at market level, and you see that in different markets, you are ongoing trend to develop business, for example, recently, we would like to accelerate overall our business with marketplaces, such as many FMCGs. On marketplaces, what it is really reassuring, and so we win time, is to confirm that this is an ongoing and growing trend across Zone Europe. And for people such as Charlotte, you win time because you don't need to go to outside with market intelligence. You see that everywhere there is that popcorn effect across market on marketplaces, for example, which is an ongoing trend. And so basically, you jump in that opportunity.
Thank you very much for your question. One thing I would add is that WeGrow has a really excellent client success team that helps you kind of define those metrics and make sure that we're going towards the KPIs of reuse. Because at the end of the day, it's all about sharing your best practices and reapplying them. So thank you, everyone. I think we're at time. I really appreciate your curiosity. And thank you so much to our Nestlé clients for kind of peeling back the hood and showing us how it worked for you. Thank you.